The Maryland Natural Resources Police traces its roots back to 1868 as the Maryland Oyster Navy. It was the first attempts at conservation in the state of Maryland. The primary mission of the Maryland Natural Resources Police entails boating safety out on all state waters, and then all marine-related conservation.
Without the Natural Resources Police enforcement on the bay, certain species I'm sure would decline, like the oysters and crabs.
The Maryland Natural Resources Police has an authorized strength of 247 officers. We receive approximately 19,000 calls for service every year. We inspect 68,000 commercial and recreational vessels a year.
We check their documentations on the boats to make sure this boat is supposed to be out there. Okay. Yeah, that's all I need. And I need your licenses for your boat. It's a challenge to catch them doing things they shouldn't be doing. It's not that we are trying to go out and say everybody's a bad guy. We're just trying to make sure everybody that goes out are very safe in what they do so they don't harm themselves, someone else.
In dealing with all of the commercial industry, basically if they're engaged in the activity, we need no probable cause to stop and inspect to make sure they're abiding by the set regulations.
Every day can be different. Some days we may jump on a boat and check oyster activity. Other days we could work from the shore and check dealers at the dock. What we're looking for is bushel limits as far as the female crabs goes, and also the size limits for the male crabs. Also to ensure that no crabs are being stored on the boat.
So we have to measure the male crabs, and the females, we make sure that they had no immature females in those bushel baskets. All right, here we go.
All right.
It is our responsibility to help save the bay. So the more that we do to keep everybody within the guidelines, rules, regulations, and laws, it preserves the wildlife and the bay for the next generation and the generation after them.
Back in the early 80s, rockfish were on the verge of being wiped out of Chesapeake Bay, and through stringent regulations, they've come back, and really for the past decade, there's been more rockfish in the bay for people to enjoy than in the recent past. On the downside, we continue to struggle with oysters. You know, there's a lot of issues for that. Water pollution, harvesting, there's no one answer, I think is the general consensus. So we continue to struggle with bringing oyster populations back to levels that we would like to see.
One of the most rewarding aspects of the job is when you catch a violator, especially when it's a blatant violation, and you know you're making a difference towards wildlife.
The Chesapeake Bay is a national treasure, and the Maryland Natural Resources Police are trying to do our part to keep it that way.